So welcome to the launch of the Diamond OA Policy Forum. My name is Vanessa Proudman. I'm the Director of Spark Europe, and we're responsible for setting up the Diamond OA Policy Forum. It's a place for national, regional, and local policymakers and funders to talk about Diamond OA in Africa, Europe, and Latin America, within the three regions and across them. So this is really important. And I'm your chair for this event today. So I think probably most of us will agree that there's much to be learned on how we develop supportive OA publishing policy and sustain the Diamond OA non-profit publishing sector. So that's why we're here today. And this forum stems from a European Commission funded project called ALMASI, which I'll speak to shortly. But perhaps you'll allow me to say a few words on why it's important for us to come together on Diamond OA non-profit publishing, i.e. free to the author and the reader. After all, science has largely historically been publicly funded, so we are convinced that research output is a public good, and the Diamond OA nonprofit model is key to deliver on this, as we retain our autonomy and control over how and where we publish. By being free to readers and authors, Diamond OA clearly reduces also the inequities to access to knowledge and knowledge production, as it allows authors and reviewers, by the way, to actively contribute and engage in the regional and global research discourse impacting science and society in equal measure. And it allows this in multiple languages, not to be forgotten. Diamond OA supports cultural and language diversity by enabling publishing in languages other than English, so helping preserve our linguistic and cultural heritage. So as we launch the Policy Forum today, we focus on how to develop and sustain this important Diamond OA model through funding and policy making. But before we get started, I would like to point out that this forum and event has been organised in a very collaborative way with partners across the three continents, with due attention to diversity and inclusion. That's really been central to how we've organised it. It is an experiment. We have got this available in English, French, Portuguese, and Spanish today. As I say, this is an experiment, so if something goes pear-shaped, please bear with us. But there are many people in the background supporting us today, in the chat, in the Q&A, and so forth. So we had over 700 registered. I see there are many of you with us, and some of you will join us later, I know, from Germany to Mexico to Ghana. And there is some celebratory music in the background, I hear. So we have a packed agenda, with esteemed speakers from across the globe, excuse me. So let me briefly take you through the program. So first of all, I will just briefly take you through what the ALMASI project is. And we also have Victoria Tsukala as a policy maker and funder, who will be talking about how she sees ALMASI, how promising it is, yes or no, and also how she sees sustaining Diamond OA. The next session will give us a helicopter view of the Diamond OA nonprofit publishing landscape, and we have from the three regions partners from the ALMASI project, Ariana Becerril Garcia talking about Latin America, Susan Murray about the African continent, and Johan Rurik about Europe. We then have our main session is really to highlight some of the policy and funding successes in the three regions. And we take a stakeholder approach and look at the research funders and national policy makers first. We have somebody from Latin America, that's Bianca Amaro, Michel Doran talking about the Irish case from Europe, and we have Stephen Sebale talking about a case from Africa. And then we have some institutional policymakers, Francisco Alarcón and Nicolas Frejenges and Birgit Schreiber-Enns. And then we have hopefully a little time for some questions, and the next steps will be rounded off by Ariana once again. So now, I'd like to just briefly introduce you to this really interesting and important cross-continental project, aligning and mutualizing non-profit open access publishing services internationally, the ALMASI project. Next slide, please. So at a glance, this is a 3-year project with 15 partners from 10 countries covering 3 regions. It's really looking at how do we learn from each other across the regions and move Diamond Open Access forward. And today is particularly dedicated to policymaking and funding. Next slide, please. So the goal of the ALMASI project is to create a globally aligned, non-profit, high quality and sustainable scholarly communication ecosystem. Next. What are the objectives of the project? So first of all, to gain a better understanding of the differences within the regions. What have we done? What do we still need to learn? What are the challenges and the solutions? And that feeds into delivering on some of the other objectives as we co-design and implement the non-technological good practices in service provision of the Diamond OA standard, DOAS, which was developed a couple of years ago now. And we really want to improve the technical and scientific quality of non-profit OA publishing. And last but not least, which is why we're here today, is how do we stimulate the development of institutional and national policies that support non-profit OA publishing, including funding. Next slide, please. So as I say, today we are exploring and supporting how we sustain this important model through policy and funding. Next. So let's talk about the Diamond OA Policy Forum, which launches today. It's a place where we are convening international, national and local policymakers and funders in 3 regions mentioned to discuss non-profit scholarly publishing policy and funding needs, the progress made and the challenges. And this is over the course of the next couple of years. And it's all to support more equitable, diverse and community-led scholarly publishing internationally. We'll be organizing 6 monthly events online. So within the region so that you can talk to each other within your regions, within those different contexts. But we will also be organizing, like today, cross-regional events every 6 months. Next slide, please. So who is this forum for? So it's for policymakers, and that can include open access and open science high-level representatives from international, regional and country level governments, research and research funding institutions, and umbrella organizations of higher education institutions and other policymakers. Funders as well, including international or national funding agencies, non-governmental organizations, charities, private funders, to academic libraries, development agencies, academies, and so forth, and many more. So anybody who really cares about Diamond or wants to understand more about Diamond going forward, and who wants to influence policy and understand policy better, and consider what the options are to help fund this important sector, this is the place for you to come, we hope, in the coming months and years. Next slide, please. So in summary, today lays the foundation for these 3 regional fora for Africa, Europe and Latin America, where policymakers and funders gather to develop contextually relevant, realistic and replicable policy recommendations and practicable funding mechanisms to implement policies in support of Diamond OA research publication within and across the regions. So I'd like to emphasize it's really they need to be realistic and replicable within your context. So we will respect those boundaries, but see also how can we challenge some of those boundaries and how can we learn from each other from the different regions. And we know that even within the regions, there is great diversity in the progress with Diamond. So we are all at different stages, and that we embrace. And then lastly, it's all really, we aim to share, discuss, and develop policy recommendations and funding mechanisms that work in various contexts together. Thank you. I think that's my last slide. Yes, thank you very much. So now I would like to invite Victoria Tsukala, who is the policy officer at the Directorate General for Research and Innovation at the European Commission. Can we move to the next slide, please? Yes, thank you. So Victoria, the floor is yours. Welcome. You're going to be talking about how you see ALMASI and sustaining Diamond OA going forward. Looking forward to that. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Vanessa. Thank you, colleagues. It's a great pleasure to be with you today and to see ALMASI in action. Actually, we have funded this project from the European Commission. So I'd like on my side to offer just a few words as a policy background and also a few of my own thoughts on sustaining Diamond. So if we can have the next slide. Without burdening you a lot, ALMASI is part of our open science policy. So funding ALMASI is part of our open science policy, which is a very, very important policy for us. It's a flagship policy in our framework programs for research in Europe. So this is the European, cross-European funding for research, and it has been so since FP7, so 2 framework programs back. That's roughly, let's say, since 2007, actually, and gradually expanded from open access to open science. Open science, which for the Commission is a way actually of doing research, is an integral part of this concept policy that we have in Europe, which is called the European Research Area, which envisions the free movements of ideas and knowledge across Europe, among other things. So open science is part of the European Research Area, and it's part of the policy agenda, which is how every 2 years we plan to fund the European Research Area. Also, just maybe as news for you, we have 2 major pieces that are coming up of legislation: the European Act, the European Research Area Act, which is going to be a legislation, Europe-wide legislation, where open science will be a part, including, of course, open access, as well as the new framework program for research, where actually open science is going to be a horizontal principle of the whole framework program, which is very, very important. It is a gain for everyone who works on open science. It is a gain for research, actually. The next slide, please. This is just to show that the Commission has consistently supported Diamond open access. So for the past few years, actually, we have funded quite a few projects that many of you will be able to recognize there that are very important, and they are developing actually into European infrastructures. This means like very, very valuable service providers across Europe. So you'll notice Hirmeos, Operas, Diamas, Craftaway, Palomera, ALMASI, of course. And we have actually more funding that's coming up. It is under evaluation currently to support Europe-wide coordination of Diamond open access from a central place. So, so you see that we have increasingly invested resources to Diamond open access. Very briefly, of course, we have high expectations of ALMASI to contribute to this international coordination and to alignment between Europe and these 2 other areas, the South America and Africa, at least, and actually to help us with policy input that we can then also take in to plan further actions and to plan our policies. This is very critical for us. So lastly, I have a slide since the discussion is on sustainability. Of course, if you could go to the next slide, please. currently in this policy forum, the discussion is on policy interventions. And I have to say that at the European level, I think we're not doing very badly. This is my own learning, and I don't know, Vanessa and other colleagues can say that I am wrong, but I think there is an increasing interest, at least by funders, and in some cases at the national level, to support diamond open access, right? So I was thinking to myself, I mean, what do we need to sustain diamond open access? Of course, we need the policy and the funding, and the money is out there. It's lying somewhere out there. It just goes somewhere else right now, right? So, so some of it will need to be redirected, let's say, towards open diamond. And okay, my time is up. But my main point was that okay, you need these services which are existing or some are new. We need to strengthen, to improve them at the infrastructure, service, and human capital level. So that they're really high quality services, right? So to support Open Diamond with funding at project level, which we do, for example, and we know that many member states do, and that other funders do. Then there is a more critical step, I think, and those last two steps are more critical, is that they become important and core services for researchers. And I think this is what the point that I wanted to make, actually. So we need to coordinate the policy, definitely. We need to be aligned. We need to align resources and direct resources. But we also need to get to the researchers. They are at the core of the thing. So if you um, create the services and the researchers do not come because, for example, the research assessment system does not value exactly, what diamond venues offer, or if they're not, for example, in mainstream assessment tools and indexers, that's a problem. So I mean, I think on my side, what I wanted to say is that uh, it is very good, and we do need the policy forum. And as a very last and most challenging, probably, step, is getting the research communities on board, at least in Europe. Perhaps in other areas of the world, this is not so much the case. But in Europe, it is the case, and it is a challenge that we will need to meet. So actually, that budget can be also redirected appropriately or deservedly, let's say. So these were my own just thoughts about sustainability beyond just the funding issue, or
Thank
the
you.
policymaker issue, which is obviously very important and is mostly what we will be talking about today. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Victoria. We can move to the thank you. We can move forward. We're going to be starting our next session. So I wanted to thank Victoria and the European Commission for their dedication to Diamond and also for sharing your thoughts on sustainability. I'm going to swiftly move forward because we have a packed program. So we now start with a helicopter view of the Diamond OA nonprofit publishing landscape in Latin America, then Africa, and then Europe. And we have three ALMASI project partners giving us that helicopter view. I'd like to introduce Ariana Becerril Garcia, who is founding director of Redalic. She's the chair of Amelica and vice rector, since very recently, vice rector of science at the Autonomous University of the State of Mexico. If we can pin Ariana, that would be lovely. And because I believe you haven't got any slides. Yes, excellent. Ariana, we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Vanessa. It's amazing to have such this great audience today. It's so diverse. Thank you to all of you, our colleagues in ALMASI project, for make this event possible. Thank you so much. Well, we in Latin America can say with pride that our region has a strong tradition of non-commercial open access, as you probably are aware of. For example, well, through different initiatives, repositories, open infrastructures that have been working in Latin America. This tradition is rooted in the principle that knowledge is public good, not a commodity, and has enabled us to build publishing systems oriented to multilingualism, regional relevance, and social inclusion rather than profit. Nevertheless, three major challenges call my attention in personal, but I think this concern is shared across the region. First, structural sustainability. Our journals in Latin America are currently sustained through research funding flows. Grants, institutional budgets, and project funding often support the operations of Diamond Open Access publications, but relying on project-based funds or temporary budgets keep us in a fragile position. Every new cycle funding is a potential risk. So what we need instead is structural support. We must move from funds circulating in research projects to sustain Diamond Open Access publishing to funds embedded in core institutional and national infrastructure and budgets. So our journals can be stable and predictable year after year. Without this structural foundation, the commitment to no fees for authors or readers will always be at risk. And we are now seeing an increasing trend of adopting the APC business model by many Diamond Open Access journals in Latin America, which is concerning. Well, the second factor is the recognition of Diamond Open Access publishing in research assessment systems. It is not enough to publish freely and openly if the career structures, incentives, and evaluation frameworks do not recognize that work on an equal footing. So many Latin American journals are still disadvantaged in research assessment worldwide, not only in Latin America. They are under-recognized, undervalued in research systems in Europe, in the US, in Canada, everywhere. So if researchers feel that publishing in a Diamond Open Access journals will hamper their evaluation or promotion, then the model becomes difficult to sustain. We need to adapt assessment systems so that they value publishing regionally across different languages in non-commercial open access model rather than privileging only large commercial journals or narrow citation metrics. And the third challenge is, and we are very focused on this work, particularly in the work we are doing in the Autonomous University of State of Mexico, but also with the work or the different alliances that are working with Red Alica and Amelica, is to secure research results as a public good, to recognize them as part of our heritage. So from our perspective, our scholarly literature, journals, articles, books, monographs, chapters, and any other output of research is a part of the cultural and intellectual heritage of our societies. So when publishing becomes captured by commercial logic, when access or publication fees intervene, when knowledge becomes gated or costly, we risk losing control over our own heritage, our languages, our regional scholarship. So the Diamond Open Access model allows us to reclaim knowledge as a commons, freely accessible, openly licensed, part of the non-commercial public domain. But to do so, we must ensure that journals, books, and research results in general are preserved, accessible, discoverable, multilingual, and anchored in our region's cultures and values. So this includes ensuring that institutional archives, national repositories, digital preservations are also part of the strategies. Of course, policies, funding, so that access today means heritage tomorrow. Sorry, I'm finishing. And a clear model that sustains financially and technically non-commercial publishing. So just to close, we must invest in the infrastructures and funding arrangements that guarantee that Diamond Open Access publishing is durable, not ephemeral. We must reform evaluation systems so that open, regional, multilingual scholarship is recognized and rewarded. And we must protect and amplify our scholarship as a public good, as our intellectual heritage. We built something remarkable in Latin America, a non-commercial, inclusive publishing ecosystem that affirms knowledge as a commons, not a commodity. But now it is time to consolidate it, secure it, and make it flourish so that future generations of scholars can publish freely, access freely, and contribute freely in the languages, contexts, and cultures of our region and actually for the world. Thank you so much, Vanessa.
Thank you so much. I'm seeing lots of applauding and hearts. So thank you so much for that beautiful presentation. I am going to move forward because of the type program, as I keep saying, but I would like to encourage everybody, if you have any questions to any of the speakers, we'd really like to encourage you to ask those questions in the Q&A or in the chat, and the speakers will try to answer them directly, and otherwise we'll do that after the event. So please do ask them the questions in the chat or in the Q&A. So next, I would like to hear what's going on in Africa from Susan Murray, who's the Executive Director of African Journals Online, AJOL. Over to you. Welcome, Susan.
Thanks so much, Vanessa, and all. The African Region ALMASI overview is a tricky one, but we certainly need a continental funder and policy forum and a global one too. Next slide, please. This is one of the reasons why it's difficult to make generalizations and accurate statements about Africa as a region in the world. This is a map that is created out of extensive research from 1880 to show all of the different tribal influences and responsibilities throughout the African continent at the time. Colonialism was already underway at this point. The healthy takeaway from this is that there's a healing counterpoint of the Berlin Conference in 1885 of the scramble for Africa by colonial occupiers to the Berlin Declaration of Open Access in 2003, which coincided with the other two originators of declarations of the open access movement in Budapest and Bethesda. Next slide, please. Today, the African context is still difficult. I'm not sure if you are seeing the orange text in the top right corner. It was supposed to be a kind of a fly-in effect, but according to the World Bank Group, Africa has the most low-income countries currently in 2024. The reference shared there has quite an interesting map over time that can be displayed about the changing circumstances. The UN list is even more interesting because as of 2025, Africa has more than 3 times the number of least developed countries than the rest of the world combined. So in terms of conducting research that is of relevance to our own contexts and sharing it, we are certainly in a very different and complex situation as compared to the other regions of the world with which we are now cooperating in the ALMASI project. Please, next slide. Most available statistics about the contribution of African research to global literature are very much underestimating what is actually happening because they are based on statistics from commercial global north products. Even though millions of African research articles and research outputs are downloaded every month from every country in the world. However, there are systemic problems which the continent and African countries need to deal with. And these are unexamined, inherited from the global north incentives that have been bought into by governments and universities in Africa that prioritize research topics by Africans that are of interest to advance their careers in prestigious overseas commercial publishers. There's a lack of incentives and a disregard of proven credible quality diamond journals published within the African continent and countries that particularly match real-world solutions to pressing domestic, continental, and also global challenges. There's a paucity of government and institutional policies to support and help coordinate these issues. And most importantly, there's a lack of African governments, individual and collective funding mechanisms to support domestic and regional proven solutions and sustainable diamond no-fee open access sharing. Next slide, please. However, work in ALMASI shows progress. There are several country case studies within the African continent that show that the several governments, university leadership collectives, and African nonprofits are actively starting to address these concerns. Just yesterday, the Association of African Universities held a high-level meeting on advancing open science in Africa, collaboration, equity, and sustainable development. In 2 weeks' time, AGIL is contributing to an international meeting to address equitable research assessment globally. So progress is underway, but it is important to acknowledge, I'm aware that I'm running short of time, it's really important to acknowledge that the diamond model of zero charges to readers and zero charges to authors of research outputs is vital, particularly in resource-constrained circumstances, in order for developing countries to be active participants and contributors to the generation of human knowledge and the systems that share those and define what is quality. Next slide, please. Together, we can go far. Alone we walk together, it's an African saying. Next slide, please. Questions for later. Here's an email address for African Journals Online. The ALMASI Funder and Policy Forum is a beautiful opportunity to both learn and align with global standards that are relevant, but also for African countries and the continent to keep its own autonomy and to shape its own rules in order to establish our own research agendas that match real world needs in our contexts, plural. Next slide, please. Please do sign up for the African Region Forum in this new space. There will be 3, Africa, Latin America, and Europe. We will all come together to share how we align, and we will also retain our own individual recognition of needs and circumstances. Thank you so much for your participation today. Please encourage others who you know will be important in this regard for Africa to be an active contributor to human knowledge generation and not just a recipient. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you very much indeed. Now we're going to move to Europe. Johan Rorik, who is the co-coordinator of the European Diamond Capacity Hub at Operas, are you going to tell us where we sit with diamond non-profit publishing in Europe? Over to you, Johan. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Vanessa. I think I will be relatively short. Of course, Diamond Open Access, I mean, it was already said various times, it's about equitable access without financial barriers for authors and readers. That's what it's all about. But today I would also like to underscore a number of other aspects of equity today that are important in Europe, or that in my view are important in Europe, and that should really be kept in mind also for probably for other regions as we go forward in this jointly in the ALMASI project and beyond. because the ALMASI project, of course, is a sort of a pilot project to work with other regions to see how we can bring diamond open access forward worldwide in a wider context where also UNESCO is involved, as you may know. We will soon have the Bengaluru summit in February, to which you are all cordially invited. But back to Europe from India. Europe is often viewed from the outside by many colleagues in the world as an economically rich region, which is not wrong. But the implication is that it is in fact uniform, that, you know, all Europeans are able to pay for these expensive APCs and for read and publish deals. And that is not the case. This view really hides major inequities between researchers from Northern and Southern Europe, from Eastern and Western Europe. I mean, when you talk to researchers from Hungary, for instance, they just don't have the funds for APCs. And in many countries, there are no transformative agreements. And so this is not something that we can afford. We also know that even in rich countries, the APCs and read and publish deals can no longer be afforded. So it is increasingly realized that in fact Diamond OA is necessary to allow all European researchers to participate in the scholarly conversation, and not only those who have funding from major research projects. And so this is, in my view, just as important to realize that, you know, Europe is, like Sue said for Africa, Europe is not a unified country, a unified region as well when it comes to this. Scholars from various countries have differential access to the current scholarly communication system, which is inequitable in itself, and that is something that we need to address. So from this perspective, equity also extends to publishing in the various languages of Europe, that researchers should be able to publish and read in from, let's say, from Croatian to Finnish, and from Irish to Estonian. So I would like to add that equity should extend not just to authors, but also to the languages, but also to reviewers, reviewers whose contribution to the scholarly communication system is often completely neglected. I always say, and I say this as an editor, a good review is just as important as the article itself. And many people take issue with that, but I really believe, after 25 years as an editor, that this is true. A good review, two good reviews, are just as important as the article itself. And we need to recognize that. And we need to recognize that the article is not just the result of that single author, but that the article results from the collaboration of a team consisting of the editor, the reviewers, and yes, also the author. And this is something that we must recognize. So this is also a part of equity. Best equity for reviewers, of course, would be ensured by open peer review, which allows readers to evaluate the contribution that reviewers have made to that article, book, or preprint. And this is something that can be achieved by making Open Research Europe, known as already part of the Diamond Open landscape in Europe, an intention that has now been expressed by the EC and 11 European funders and will soon become a reality. And I really would like to salute the EC leadership in this regard. As Victoria has already pointed out, many projects have been launched in the last 5 years that support the renewal of open access publishing as led by the scholarly communities. And it can certainly be said that the Diamas and Craft Away projects that have been funded by the EC have made it possible to found the European Diamond Capacity Hub, which will now offer services to align and coordinate Diamond Open Access in Europe across all languages and across all countries of the European research area. I would like to finish by saying something about quality standards. As Pilar Rico Castro has said, time's up already. Quality is a public good. And we know that the landscape in Europe is still very fragmented, with huge differences between countries in terms of quality, sustainability, and the practices. And We know that countries with national capacity centers like Croatia, Finland, France, Spain, and Portugal have a thriving diamond ecosystem, and we would like to extend that to the rest of Europe. We have to make sure that all diamond open access journals, books, and preprints adopt the same quality standards across the European research area, because that's also a matter of equity, in the sense that all researchers have to be sure that they are that they can count on the same quality in all the journals that they submit to in the Diamond Open Access landscape. So quality, again, I believe, is a dimension of equity for researchers that we need to take seriously. And this is, again, something that the European Diamond Capacity Hub is taking seriously via the Diamond Open Access standard, that we will also be addressing as part of the ALMASI project in our continuing exchange with Diamond Open Access communities in Africa and Latin America. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Johan. So we have heard a lot about the different priorities in the three regions. Thank you so much. I'd now like to move to our main session, which is really highlighting some of the diamond policy and funding successes in the three different regions. And we're going to start talking to some of the research funders and national policymakers. And we're going to start with Latin America. Bianca Amaro, who is the Data Governance Coordinator at the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation in Brazil. We look forward to hearing from you. Bianca, do you have slides or are you speaking? Yes, excellent. Thank you so much. Over to you. Thank you.
Sim, e vou falar em português e estou muito feliz.
I'm going to speak in Portuguese. I am very happy to have this opportunity and to be able to speak in my language and to have this respect is very important. I'm going to explain some aspects that Ariana mentioned.
Próximo slide, por favor. Bom, como a Ariana comentou,
as Ariana mentioned, the model of diamond journals is a traditional model.
Bom, nós temos a maior parte
we have most of our journals in public universities in Brazil. They're created in public universities and are maintained by these universities. And the region has, some countries have this. Some countries have regulations regarding open access. We also have some portals that bring together journals in the region. We need, unquestionably, to have more valuation of the editorial work, including exactly the part of assessment of these professionals that work in the journals.
Next, please. Somente nós verificamos no Chile, na
Chile and Brazil, the National Funding Agency, ANID, and CAPES in Brazil have a kind of financial support. They have specific resources to support journals. But I have to say that this support are not directly related to diamond journals. It's editorial support. And it's something that makes me sad because this morning, earlier in Brazil, we had a webinar promoted by CAPES to commemorate the transformative agreements of CAPES. And so the reflection is here. Why signing a transformative agreement and not use these resources used in these cross-border agreements to support diamond journals in
essa é uma
Brazil.
questão política que nós
This
teremos
is a
que
political
trabalhar com ela.
thing that we need to work on.
Todos os fundos que nós temos, há que se
All of the
lembrar que
funds
a
we have
região,
access
ela
to,
não
we need to
possui
remember
financiamento
that
regional,
have
assim
regional
como a União
funding,
Europeia possui essa
as well as
possibilidade
the
de
EU that
financiamento
has this
regional. Nós não
possibility
temos
for regional
nenhum
funding.
organismo
We
regional
don't have
que
any
possa
such
nos dar suporte, que
organization
possa nos
that
apoiar
can
em nossas
support us
atividades
in
relacionadas
the
ao
activities
acesso aberto
related
diamante.
to
Bom,
open
nós
access.
necessitamos mais
We need
regulamentações,
more
mais leis
regulation
para
and
proteger
more
e
laws to
assegurar a
protect
manutenção
and
e a
guarantee
sustentabilidade
the
das
maintenance
revistas
and
diamante.
sustainability
Nós
of
temos
diamond
que
journals.
fortalecer as
We need to
infraestruturas
strengthen
para as
the
revistas e
infrastructures for the
publicações
journals and
diamante na nossa
publications
região.
in a
Muitos dos
region.
nossos editores
Many
trabalham
of
de
our
forma
reviewers
voluntária.
work on a
E
voluntary
está
basis.
muito claro para nós
And it's
que
very
nós
clear to
necessitamos que
us
os países
that
do
we
norte
need
mudem as
countries
regras
from the
de
north
avaliação.
change
Por
their
que eu
assessment
digo isso?
methods.
Porque
Why do I
nós,
say this?
normalmente,
Because
países
we
do
normally,
sul,
countries
seguimos
from the
as
south,
regras de
follow the rules,
avaliação que os países do
the
norte
assessment rules
utilizam.
that countries
Enquanto
from the north
vocês não
use.
mudarem essas regras,
Whereas
será muito difícil para que
while we
politicamente
all
nós
follow these rules, it
consigamos
would be
mudar
very
essas regras.
difficult
Nós
for
sempre
us to
estamos
politically
tentando
change these
ser
rules. We're
internacionais,
always
mas
trying to be
mesmo quando essa
international,
internacionalização
but
não nos é tão favorável.
when
Então, por favor,
we talk about internationalization,
queridos,
it's not favorable to
companheiros
us.
do norte,
So, dear
trabalhem
colleagues
na
from the
mudança das
north,
regras de
please work
avaliação,
to change
porque
the
dessa
assessment
forma,
rules,
se mudarmos as regras de
because
avaliação,
if we do,
seguramente nós poderemos
most
apoiar mais
likely we
fortemente
will
as
be able
revistas
to
diamante. Se
support
colocarmos,
diamond
por exemplo,
journals.
se valorizarmos, por
And
exemplo, as revistas
if we
diamante
value the
como
diamond
uma
journals
forma de
as a way
dar uma melhor avaliação
to
para
provide a
pesquisador
better
que publique em
assessment
uma revista diamante.
to a researcher
Enquanto nós
publishing in diamond
considerarmos
journals,
que essas
while
revistas
so long as we
não são
consider
as
that these
revistas
journals
top
are
do
not
mundo,
the top in the
nós
world,
seguiremos ainda
we will
publicando e
continue
teremos órgãos de
publishing,
financiamento no
and
Brasil e
we
em
have
outros países da
funding
região,
organizations in Brazil
ainda
and other
adotando
countries in the
todos
region
transformativos
that are
e também
continuing
apoiando
adopting
aquelas
transformative
revistas
agreements and
internacionais que
supporting
cobram
international
APCs
journals
caríssimos. Eu gostaria de
that
finalizar também
charge at very high
chamando a
prices. I
atenção
would
para
like to
vocês
finish
de
bringing your
ponto que
attention
eu considero que
to
é
a
muito
point
importante para a gente.
that I think
Nós
is very important
trabalhamos
to us.
com
We
fundos
work
públicos e também
with
nós
public
chamamos
funds,
aqui na região a
and we're
responsabilidade
calling
dessas universidades
the
públicas
attention
que
here, the
estão cobrando
responsibility of
APC.
these public
Gostaria de deixar muito
universities.
claro que é muito diferente
And I
uma
would like to
universidade
say
ou
that
uma
it's very different
instituição
when a
do,
university or
da
institution
região ou
in
uma
the
revista
region
cobrar APC, porque essas revistas
charges
não estão
APC in
visando
a
lucro,
journal, because
porque
these
elas estão
journals
tentando
are not
se
looking for
manter.
profit.
Tanto que o
They're
valor
trying
do
to
APC
sustain
cobrado por essas
themselves.
revistas
So the
é muito
value of the
pequeno. O
APC is
APC
very
é uma
low.
saída?
The
Não, não é uma
APC
saída.
is a way
Uma
out.
saída é
It's not.
buscarmos
The way
junto
out
aos
is looking
órgãos
together
financiadores
and
aqui
going to the
eles passem
funders
a apoiar a
so
livre
that
circulação
they
do conhecimento como bem público comum,
support
assim como
the
a região
circulation
o
of knowledge
considera.
as a common
I'm
good
so
Acho que era
sorry.
isso
as
que
the
eu gostaria de
region
falar com vocês.
considers.
A
Thank you
próxima, por
so
favor.
much.
Next, please.
Bianca, I'm really sorry we've run out of
Oh,
time. Oh, thank
deixo
you.
aqui com vocês o meu e-mail, caso vocês queiram
Thank
entrar em
you.
contato
And
conosco.
this is
Mas
my email
tenham sempre
in case you
presente,
want to
a
reach out.
América Latina
Latin
é
America
modelo a ser
is a
seguido
model to be
em
followed
todas as
by
regiões do
all
planeta,
regions in the
porque
planet,
as instituições
because
públicas
public
elas se fazem cargo
institutions
das
are
revistas.
in
Muito obrigada.
charge. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I should have actually responded in Portuguese, but I don't dare too. Thank you so much, Bianca. I'd now like to go to Europe. Michelle Doran from the National Open Research Forum. She's the National Open Research Coordinator for Ireland. It's over to you, Michelle. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Vanessa, for the opportunity to present at this event. I might just jump straight to the next slide to discuss the policy context. Thank you so much. So when Ireland launched its National Action Plan for Open Research in November 2022, we set out an ambitious vision for a research system fully aligned with open research principles and practices by 2030. The National Action Plan is structured according to 3 themes under which vision, goals, and actions are articulated. These themes are to build a culture of open research, to achieve 100% open access to research publications, and to enable fair research data and other outputs. Implementation of the National Action Plan has been overseen by the National Open Research Forum within the framework of Impact 2030, which is Ireland's national research and innovation strategy. Next slide, please. So under theme 2 of the National Action Plan, our vision is that by 2030, Ireland will have implemented a sustainable and inclusive course for achieving 100% open access to research publications. Of course, we recognise that success of this national ambition is dependent on a multifaceted approach to academic publishing. The plan includes actions to strengthen Ireland's network of open access repositories, support rights retention for Irish researchers, invest in persistent identifier infrastructure, and align policies for open access to publications. Next slide, please. More specifically, actions include conducting a feasibility study and pilot with a view to establishing a publicly owned, centralised national platform for diamond open access publication of journals and books. Next slide, please. As well as conducting a national programme of open access repository assessment and alignment to deliver standardised metadata nationally, and undertaking a legal assessment of ways to support Irish researchers to retain their rights and make their work open access. Next slide, please. So in 2022 and 2023, North's Open Research Fund provided the critical stimulus for coordinated national progress. 3 projects in particular laid the groundwork, and these are Publish OA Ireland, co-led by the Royal Irish Academy and Trinity College Dublin, explored the feasibility of a national diamond open access publishing platform, and I'll speak more about their work in a moment. The Open Access Repository Assessment and Alignment Project, which was led by the University of Galway, addressed fragmentation across our repository network, building the foundations for standardised metadata and interoperability across institutions. And the SCORE project, which focused on the secondary publishing rights and rights retention, has begun to clarify how Irish researchers can legally make their work openly accessible. Together, these initiatives create a connected infrastructure for policy, legal and technical supports, essential building blocks for a thriving open access environment. Next slide, please. So I will pop the link to this report in the chat when I'm done speaking. Between November 2024 and April 2025, the Publish OA Ireland project team explored the feasibility of a national diamond open access publishing platform for Ireland, a publicly owned non-profit digital infrastructure for open access journals and books. The study assessed the technical, organisational and financial requirements for such a platform and produced a full technical specification aligned with national and international standards, including Plan S, the Diamond Open Access Standard and Ireland's National Action Plan for Open Research. Through extensive consultation with publishers, authors and funders and trials of multiple open source publishing systems, the project identified open journal systems and open monograph press, both developed by PKP, as the optimal solutions. The project proposed to begin a pilot in 2025, initially focusing on journals. It identified 6 diverse Irish journals that have been shortlisted as demonstrators. The proposed pilot will provide centralised hosting, editorial support, training and governance, while also developing a discovery interface to showcase all Irish Diamond Open Access journals, regardless of platform. The proposed pilot will be developed on the same principles and governance model as the future National Diamond Open Access platform, emphasising bibliodiversity, inclusivity and sustainability. Further investment is recommended to support migration of additional journals, the inclusion of open access book publishing, and integration with national initiatives such as SCORE and Open Repositories Ireland. Ultimately, the Publish OA feasibility report concludes that the pilot can begin immediately if funded, representing a crucial step towards Ireland's goal of 100% open access to publicly funded research by 2030. So in September 2025, the momentum continued. Oh, beg your pardon, can we just go on to the next slide, please? Thank you. In September 2025, the momentum continued with the establishment of Diamond Ireland, supported through North's Open Research Sustainability and Growth Fund. The purpose of this fund is to assist networks formed under the 2022 Open Research Fund to transition from project-based initiatives to self-sustaining communities. Diamond Ireland brings together 23 experts from 19 organisations representing libraries, publishers, funders and research communities, along with an international advisory group demonstrating broad sectoral support for the network. The network's role is to consolidate the achievements of the Publish OA and establish the basis for ongoing sustainable support for Ireland's Diamond Open Access platform and community. It will expand existing partnerships, engaging publishers and authors and communities at new levels of collaboration. Particular attention will go to Irish language publishers, marginalised voices, student publishers and early career researchers, ensuring that no publisher is left behind in Ireland's transition to open access. A partnership model will provide every member with a seat at the table and a say in how the network and platform evolve. Looking ahead, to ensure the continued success of Diamond Ireland and the broader open access ecosystem, 3 priorities stand out. The first is sustained investment to support platform growth, technical maintenance and training capacity. The second is policy alignment, linking to the initiatives that I mentioned regarding rights retention and repository standards and publishing infrastructure into a coherent national framework. And the third then is international engagement. I've about 30 seconds left. Connecting with initiatives to share best practice and amplify Ireland's voice in shaping the future of open access globally. By combining national coordination and with international cooperation, Ireland is building a model for open access that is sustainable, equitable and community driven. However, the network and platform are currently only funded by the National Open Research Forum until the end of 2026, at which time the network partners will deliver a robust governance and funding model that ensures long-term sustainability and scalability of the network and its publishing platform. So, that's me.
Thank you very much indeed, Michelle, for that view on the commitment from Ireland to Diamond OA. Next up from Africa, we have Stephen Sibale, who's head of science policy at the Uganda National Council for Science and Technology, and I believe you will be speaking to us about change and good practices in your region. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just go straight to it. The UNCST, which is Uganda National Council for Science and Technology, we're a regulator for research in Uganda, and we have been doing this for quite some time, since 1990. We clear right now about 5,000 research pieces every year. We are quite recent to open access. I think the earliest time was 2012 when we started having a rigorous engagement around how to share knowledge within the universities. And at that time, there were only 3 universities which had some repositories or some knowledge protection services. But when we had the UNESCO recommendation, it really pushed us a lot to try and see what are we missing and what are we doing, are we not doing right. And what helps us a lot was that we got knowledge aggregators, like librarians, like sector workers, up to the African Union, where we had the Africa Open Science Platform also coming in to help the institutions to integrate open science within their regular practice. So as UNCST, we are a regulator, so we developed, as part of this, we developed an open science policy, which was essentially helping us to see what are those things that we could integrate within our regular work, and how could we do that, especially around policy. So our policy for open science was quite broad. It had about five pillars on infrastructure, on advisory, on skills. But I think the most important one was on policy framework. We're building and creating a comprehensive policy framework that encourages and enforces open access practices. And how could we do this? But given that we're a regulator and we are seeing how this research is coming in, we have an entry point on how to govern research, but also how to help our researchers integrate some of these guidelines. And I think right now we have been able to point them towards the values around diamond open access, towards the utility around that. And we've seen several universities now picking that up. And in doing so, some of them have even had their ranking increase. And we have also embarked on sharing these experiences with research organizations, including even the non-for-profit. So essentially, there is a progressive uptake, and this is really because of the advocacy we have put around the policy. A policy without advocacy cannot work. So we have tried to point them to the benefits, point them to networks, point them to partners who can help and support them in integrating some of these knowledge practices, even encouraging the researchers to the man to see how best they can share these experiences with their peers and really see the good that is out of having open access, open knowledge, and also having those who publish to rather open to sharing these new knowledge experiences. So in our policy, we have a whole strand that is basically focused on open access and trying to see how best they can mainstream some of these practices within their their global good. And then as an institution, as UNCST, we have also gone ahead to build some infrastructure. We run the national repository. So all research in Uganda comes to us, and in doing so, we're able to challenge and promote and share really the utility that comes from open access and open sharing. And we've done that, and many of our young publishers are trying to, and writers are trying to integrate this within their regular processes. So not only just developing policies, but also establishing like working frameworks around these policies so that we can expand and build the spaces around this new modicum for knowledge sharing. Then challenges, of course, there have been challenges in doing this. There are obvious policy gaps, and I quite liked what Susan shared earlier. There are policy gaps, there are culture gaps, there's funding gaps, because, for instance, in Uganda, researchers mostly fund their own research. So in doing so, they're very particular. They're very particular in how that research eventually gets shared. So there are these underlying challenges that are there, but they're not challenges that are impossible to overcome. I think it's really about what new knowledge or what new ideas can we expose them to so that they can see exactly where they're going. So for me, from Uganda at least, I have about 4 things to point to as clear, definitive in helping us understand or in fact implement open access within our setup. First of all, use what we have. We have a lot of resources around us, but just because we do not know what we have. So right now, for instance, the council is part of a family of 18 other councils around Africa. So we can share these experiences with them, hopefully with the case that they too can adopt them within their own context. And the second one is, I think, know what you have. Without mapping and exactly calibrating where you are in your knowledge system, you cannot build policy. So I think it's important that we understand, first of all, use what we have, but know what we have, and then also share what we know. Because if we can share these experiences, not just through policy, but through our daily work and the daily activities that we're doing with our partners, then we can promote free access to publicly funded research. And lastly, of course, to build what we need. Do we need this particular way of sharing knowledge. I think we do because and I quite like what Sarah shared in her earlier presentation, that knowledge is very, very compartmentalized in different sections around Africa. It's not connected as it is. So this open access, diamond access, gives us a great opportunity to see how best to bring our best game apart and how best to attract the best partners, both local and from the global north, and to best see what research we can do that can drive us fastest to the solutions that are congruent to our challenges as it is. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Stephen, for so many wise words. And there's a lot to be learned from Uganda within your region, but also outside of it. So thank you for sharing so much with us today. So I'd now like to move to the subsection on institutional policymakers. So what can we learn from some really good and interesting practices from institutional policymakers? I'm going to hand us over to Francisco Alarcón. He's the director of the academic area and deputy secretary general of CSUCA, based in Guatemala. Over to you, Francisco.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Bueno, básicamente son 5 puntos.
5 points.
Creo que no vamos a tener
I
tiempo
don't
de
think
verlos,
we will have
pero
time to look at everything,
básicamente
but
contarles qué
basically
somos,
to
es decir,
tell
qué
you
es
who
la
we are,
Confederación de
what is
Universidades Centroamericanas
CSUCA,
y del Caribe,
Confederation of
cómo
Universities
trabajan,
in Central America and the
es nuestro
Caribbean,
compromiso
how
con
they
la
work,
ciencia
what's
abierta,
our commitment with
a
open
través de una
science
declaración que
through
hemos
a declaration
publicado
that we've
recientemente,
published
y
recently,
cómo, digamos, eso
and
afecta a
how
las
this
revistas de
affects
nuestras universidades
journals
en el
from our
compromiso
universities
de
in the commitment
revistas Diamante. Si quiere,
to
pasamos a la
Diamond
siguiente, por
Journals.
favor.
Next, please.
La siguiente.
Next.
Ok, somos el organismo
We
de
are
integración
the
regional
Regional
centroamericana
Integration
de la educación
Organization in
superior
Central America of
pública.
Higher Education in Public
Estamos
Universities.
constituidos
We
por
are
27 universidades públicas
made up
en
by
8
27
países del
public
sistema de la
universities
integración
in 8
centroamericana
countries
más
in the Central
Cuba, es
American
decir, es
integration system
Centroamérica
plus
y el
Cuba,
Caribe
Central
hispanoparlante.
America
La
and the
siguiente, por
Spanish-speaking
favor.
Caribbean. Next.
Bueno, aquí ustedes pueden ver las
You can
universidades
look
que
at the
forman parte de la
universities that are a
Confederación,
part of the Confederation
ubicadas en el mapa.
located on the map.
Estos son los países
These are
involucrados,
the
son 9
countries
países en
involved,
total.
9 countries
La
all
siguiente, por
told.
favor.
Next.
En conjunto representamos
Together,
una
we
comunidad
represent
universitaria
a
regional
regional
de poco más de
university
1 millón de
community of
personas,
over 1 million
entre
people
estudiantes,
among
profesores y
students,
personal
professors, and
administrativo y de
admin
servicios.
staff.
Digamos, la Confederación
The Confederation in Central America, we publish very little as compared to the rest of the world because little is invested on science in our countries, unfortunately. However, from our universities in the Confederation in Central America, we have 77% of the publications that exist in the region and that are published in journals that are indexed in Scopus. Next.
La siguiente de una vez.
Next.
Vamos a avanzar más rápido.
Let's move faster.
¿Cómo trabajamos?
How do we work? Next.
Bueno, tenemos un plan
we have a strategic plan approved in 2021 and all the way to 2031. We work through regional systems that are spaces of exchange and collaboration among our universities for the achievement of the objectives of our strategic plan. Next. One of the 8 regional systems is focused on science. In other words, investigation and postgraduate studies, the formation of scientists and the exchange of scientific exchange in a region. We have a plan, and this plan implies 4 objectives within scientific research. Next. Next. Open science is an issue that was discussed among public universities recently. In 2021, in the 9th University Central American Congress, it was explicitly discussed, and as a result, our strategic plan at present includes an objective focus on open science, objective 2.4 of our plan, which is to promote and facilitate access to information and research results and knowledge produced by universities in the region, promoting principles, concepts, and methods of open science. So we have an objective which is a reflection of the debate in 2021. Next. What have we done based on this objective? We've worked on a series of actions to move forward. First, we appointed all of the deputy directors of research of member universities, designated promoters of open science in their own universities. We created a network of promoters in Central America that has focused on training and formation among them, exchange of experiences, and also to prepare a declaration of commitment with the principles of open science from our universities, which was approved in 2023 by the highest organ where we have the rectors and student representatives of universities in our region. You have the links here where you can download the declaration and the commitment that we have. Next. This has also implied the creation and strengthening of an institutional repository in Central America. Every university has built its repository, and all of them are being harvested with an algorithm and metadata to have a regional repository of scientific production from our universities, implying that we need to make an inventory of our journals. And as Bianca Mauro said, many of our journals in Central America are published by universities or academic units from our Central American universities. We identified 232 of these journals, and we've created a portal that articulates. We call it the Central American Journal Portal, and this is the link. These journals need more support. As Bianca said, many of the publishers do this as voluntary work and reviewers. Our universities, thanks to this declaration, were committed to opening more support to our journals. Now that we've identified them and we've tried to articulate, we want to support them better. And that's the objective to achieve in the future. And they're sustained with the dedication, time, and the academic load that reviewers have in our universities. But this needs to be done more professionally and needs more support.
I'm sorry to have to cut you off. How important institutional policymaking is and collaboration in your region. So thank you so much for your speech. I'd like to move us swiftly on to Nicolas Frechanchies. He's the Vice President in charge of Digital Policy, Research Data and Open Science at the University of Lorraine in France. So over to you, Nicolas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vanessa. Thank you very much, and thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, depending on where you are. So this is going to be the contrary of a helicopter view. We'll be talking about the Lorraine region, northeast of France. If you want to see it, it's close to Luxembourg. Just to set the scene, I'll be talking from my university, which is 7,000 staff and 60,000 students, just to see how we are. So next slide, please. So we talk about the way we're going to fund and emphasize diamond open access, but first, a bit of national context. So if you look at the national context, we have had two plans for open science, and if you look into the second edition of the plan, you see that France officially supports models that do not require the payment of article or books processing charges. Well, they are called diamond model in this plan. Next, please. And if you look at the French National Research Agency, a funder, well, the funder says you must make your publications available immediately in open access under a Creative Commons CC BY or equivalent license. If you don't do that, well, probably you won't get the funding. And next slide, please. So that means that we have to help our researchers, our own researchers, to comply with this, so to publish open access. So, of course, we are not keen on paying APC. So what did we do? Well, how do we incite our researchers not to go the APC way? We don't have any legal nor technical means to prevent them from doing so. So what we did is, from our university, we issued a statement, a comment that is validated by all the institutions within the university, and say, okay, do not pay APC, avoid paying APCs. Two reasons for that, two main reasons for that. The first reason is, well, keep your money for research. Don't spend money for other things. Keep your money for research. Another thing is that we don't, of course, give them money from the central part of the university to pay APCs. And another reason is that, well, paying APCs, it leads to a conflict of interest at the level of the editor, which the editor has financial interest to accept your paper. And, well, this argument has a strong impact on researchers. And what's on the right here is that it's not a statement from the university. We have embarked with us all the research contributors in the region, which are mainly national actors. Next, please. So if we want researchers to avoid paying APC, then we have to support from the university diamond open access. So whether it be in-house in our university or not. Next, please. So the idea here is, well, we'll see it later. So what do we do? We have a few bunch of initiatives which you have here, which are funded yearly. So we have 100 €100 that are spent yearly to fund these initiatives. So the initiatives are not within our university. We are using them. We are not obliged to pay for them, but we feel it's the good thing to do because we are using them. So let's do this, and we have this 100K yearly. Next, please. And the other thing is that we also restricted a budget for funding our initiatives, the journals from our researchers. So we have also a few of them here, and we have half of this, so 500K euros spent to help this journal simply exist, simply live the life. Next, please. So now, there you go. So how does this work? So we have a funding allocation process that's been decided within the institution of the university. So we have a board, an open science board within the university, actually within the whole region. We are deciding yearly which initiatives we support, which international initiatives we support, which are of interest to our university, Lorraine interest, which international initiatives we support which are of general interest, not only if it does not precisely interest us because well, for some reason, then we still support some because they are generating interest. And for the journals, the important thing is that we are vetting the editorial, the journals, so that we are sure that they mean something in an editorial way. So they all have to be, of course, diamond open access. So that's the way we are giving up the support. Next slide, please. So the question is now, how do we get this support? So remember, we have 150Ks that are spent on Diamond Open Access. So as of today, we have a 500,000K yearly revenue stream coming to Open Science. So is this secured, and where does it come from? It results from the half of it results from the cancellation of the widely read and publish agreements. So the important thing here is that it's a bottom process. We didn't decide to cancel that. We said, okay, now researchers, what do you want to do? Do you want to go the APC way? Do you want to go the traditional way, or do you want to go to do something else, which is open, which is more equitable and so on? And just an interesting thing is that they say, okay, yeah, we go with that. And we were asking the question only on Wiley, and they were asking us, okay, do we concern anything else? What is the plan for the next thing? So that's the interesting is that it comes from the researcher. So that's half of the revenue stream. And with this half of the revenue stream, then we managed to, inside the Lorraine research actors, so the other research actors in Lorraine, to give another part of the money. And there's another state contract that gives yet another part, roughly a quarter and another quarter of the revenue stream. And well, the first one is secured provided the university keeps the money for open science, and well, let's hope we will do so. The second and third one are not secured, but because it depends on the Lorraine research actors, and the other one depends on the state. So, well, if the research actors and the state maintain their open science policy, we can hope that it is also secured. So, next, please. The main thing, the main takeaway from this talk is this. People are saying we need funds for open science. Usually, well, what I want to say is, okay, the funds are there. It was said at the beginning of this meeting. It was said the funds are there, but they are going somewhere. So we had funds to fund closed science. So what's been doing here, what we have done here is just transfer the funds from closed science to open science, and that's the way we hope to have it sustained. And that's about it. Next slide, please. If you want to have all the details on this, there was a talk. We had been interviewed by the Arctic University of Norway with Jean-François Lutz, who is leading this with me. And if you want to have all the details, you just click on this and read 1 hour on that.
Thank you so much, Nicolas. Thank you. So I'm going to pass this on to Birgit. Please stay with us. Just a few more minutes over time then. Birgit is the strategic lead at the Leadership and Professional Development Department at the Southern African Regional Universities Association, SUA, South Africa. So over to you, Birgit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. And sorry, I'm right at the end of this, and I hope I can still keep them excited for the last few minutes. I'm going to whip right through my slides. Second slide, please. I come up to this conversation perhaps from two different angles. Next slide, please, Andrea. The one is that I come from SUA, which is a regional association that looks after capacitation and network in Southern Africa. And we look particularly at capacitation of the higher educator. Go one slide back. And the second leg I stand on, and I come to this conversation being the editorial executive of a Diamond Open Access journal. And we've been active for the last 13 years. So I come at this conversation with a slightly different angle. And so when I was asked to reflect on what I can contribute to this conversation was particularly from those two vantage points, and that I would plead for more human capacity and a lot of training and development that we need in order to achieve change. We need to have champions of change, which requires our people to be equipped and competent to steer change. Next slide. And you can whip right to the next one. Yeah, you can see that thank you for the next slide. You're struggling with the slides there. There we are. So just go to the next slide, because I know time is running short. I was reminded. This is the go on back. Thanks so much. It doesn't matter. I'm going to go stick with this one. Yeah, that's good. And I'm going to go and then finish on this is my second last one. I would have gone a long way to say that if we want change, change happens in various ways. And if we want things to change, we need to embolden and capacitate the very people that can steer this change. And there's various ways of doing this. We look at human capacity, we look at the human ecosystem and institutional capacity, and we capacitate those in different ways. Go to the next slide. What is important that we want to invest in people. We want to strengthen human capacity. We want to empower regional voices and build networks. And we want to address the persistent asymmetries in accessing training and development in the region. Go to the next slide. The most important slide for me is now the next slide, where I want to highlight where we need training for people, particularly in the Southern African, and I'm looking at 16 countries south of the Congo, where we require, next slide, please, where we require training. And here you see the 5 areas where I think key training and capacitation development is required to advance open access is in the editorial and journal management space. Here we need training on policies, on diamond open access standards. How is it done? How do we index? How do we publish in an open access way? What are the metadata, indexing, and so forth? So real training for editorial executive like myself, who I must admit have kind of made our own way through this and by a sheer conviction have ended up in the open access space with many barriers that were thrown in our way, as all other editors would know that too. So there's a lot of training and capacitation needed in the editorial and journal management space of those people. The second one you see here is in the peer review and diversity, and particularly that in order to make knowledge really equitable, we need diversity in the review pool, we need diversity of gender, rurality, those sorts of aspects in order to make the review process and what really then goes through into the editorial publishing space once it's, once been submitted, so that our reviewers are really equipped. Again, we need training, we need policies, we need manuals to do this. Our reviewers are kind of inventing the way forward and we guide them as best we can. But again, there is no formal training that we can access, that we can use for our reviewers. The third one here is the policy space. Again, we need to look at how is our ecosystem shaped, and that is again shaped by the individuals in those places. And again, I think there is a lot of training and development space and potential there. The fourth one is the cross-regional collaboration. We work in the cross-national space in the SADC region, that's the 16 countries south of the Congo, with the Congo. And while there's an uneven capacity across the countries, and we need much more collaboration in order to share training material and reach across borders. And the last one is, of course, what was mentioned so often already, institutional recognition of the invisible labor that goes on around reviews and so forth. So a lot of, again, I'm asking that when we want to see change, we need to target champions. We need to target key people in the institutions that can be informed, trained, develop networks in order to make the change stronger. Next slide, please. Next slide and the next one. I'm going to close early for Vanessa. She'll be pleased to see this. Our collective action is really building human infrastructure for capacity. And that is a key ingredient in change, that our people are capacitated to make deliberate change where it is effective. So thank you very much. I hope you still were around to hear this last presentation. Thank you.
Thank you ever so much, Birgit. And we still have almost 240 people still with us. So that's really amazing. I'd like to thank everybody so much. We have learned so much today. I'm going to hand over to Ariana, who's actually officially closing the session. It would only be fair. And so over to you, Ariana.
Muchas gracias. Pues,
globally, this movement has gained momentum that is very important through different continents. It's recognized that science should be a public asset. And in this spirit, we need to highlight that this forum is not only the beginning, but just the beginning of a collaborative and sustained conversation of how to collectively sustain scientific publication, how to adjust it to the different challenges and contexts of the various regions through Africa, Latin America, and Europe, and to make of the next 2 years of ALMASI to continue asking ourselves questions about who supports non-commercial scientific publication, the infrastructures, how can we move forward in the recognition systems, in the assessment system, and how do we guarantee scientific communication is multilingual, relevant regionally, and accessible publicly. So this beginning that we see today that Vanessa has said, we will be meeting every 6 months to celebrate and enrich this conversation in the future activities of this forum. And thank you, ALMASI, Vanessa, Andrea, everyone involved in the organization for making it a reality. Thank you.
Thank you so much, all. Have a wonderful day and evening. And until the next time you'll hear from us, we look forward to it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.